Wake up, wake up. It is January the 22nd, and the 49ers still do not have a defensive coordinator. And will it be Robert Saleh? It's looking less and less like Robert Saleh. Let's go right now, right here. Damon and Larry, brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. Wake up.
Yeah, yesterday was all about 49ers fans saying, ooh, closer to Robert Saleh, closer to Robert Saleh. This morning on Wake Up, we're going to tell you objects in that rearview mirror may not be as close as they appear, or it might be even closer than they appear. But Robert Saleh has got a little something attached now to this story. Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen is among the handful of guys that seem to be the front runner for the Jacksonville Jaguars job, a job that Robert Saleh also has thrown his hat into the ring for. Liam Cohen today pulled his name out of that hat. He is going to remain the coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense instead of, any right of first refusal of that Jaguars job, which a lot of people thought that he would have. So this possibly bumps up Saleh to the Jaguars' top choice. They have also brought back for an interview the Raiders' defensive coordinator. So Robert Saleh back to the 49ers doesn't look nearly as smooth and about to happen this morning as it did just yesterday afternoon. Things change quickly in the league, Larry, all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, a little bit of a surprise, but at the same time, I kind of wonder why. Did Liam Cohen decide he didn't want to work for Trent Baalke? That's possible.
I think that might
be
Liam
Cohen decide that. Did he decide that Trevor Lawrence, who he would be in charge of kind of fixing, does he not believe in Trevor Lawrence? Or, you know what I mean? There could be that as well. Maybe he feels like Baker.
Very large pile of money has been put in front of the man, too. And think about it. Do you want to go to a nearly guaranteed to be fired and not be successful head coaching job in Jacksonville, or stay in a good situation, stay under the radar, make a boatload of money, and position yourself to be next year's Ben Johnson, first guy off the board, is maybe how Liam Cohen is thinking about this. Chess, not checkers, for Mr. Cohen.
Well, and of course, our audience cares about how it impacts the 49ers. Now, ultimately, it sounded like it was down to Liam Cohen or Robert Saleh as the front runners for that job in Jacksonville. But isn't it interesting how Liam Cohen is happy to stay as the offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers, but Robert Saleh doesn't want to take a big fat check to be the most, the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league with the 49ers. It sounds like they were about to make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league. So makes you wonder. And then, of course, all the people that are going to come back big, well, they took too long. And, well, it's not about speed. It's about relationships. It's about, there was a talk that Ben Johnson was going to bring Dennis Allen with him wherever he went. So it's these ideas that, well, it's just a matter of the timing. It's not just a matter of the timing. I mean, there are situations where it could be the timing, but I think this is really, I don't think it's just down to Staley or Saleh. I really don't. I know that's kind of been the take, is that, well, with all these other guys going away, the Niners, it's Brandon Staley if they don't get Robert Saleh. Well, I get the sense, and maybe I'm wrong, but I got the sense of it that they just want to be all in on Saleh, and that if Saleh tells them no, that it won't necessarily go to Staley, that then they'll open it up and start interviewing other guys. But a lot of these other guys, I mean, I guess you could go with a Matt Eberflus. He's out there. There's probably guys in the college game. There's younger guys. But as far as proven defensive coordinators, they're not a lot.
Well, And I don't think we can accuse the 49ers of not being quick here, because really we still got the music playing in the game of musical chairs here. It's not like it's over yet, but everyone is starting to look at the chair, and you start seeing how the 49ers, unless they get aggressive in like the next 48, 72 hours, they could be left as the kid standing when the music stops. Because, as you said, Dennis Allen, who was a favorite candidate possibly for the 49ers, is heavily rumored to be joining Ben Johnson in Chicago. We'll probably find out about that quickly. Jeff Ulbrich has signed on with the Atlanta Falcons, so he's off the board. Lou
Anarumo went to the Colts, so he's out.
Is he done with the Colts? Is that official now?
No, yeah, he's back. He went to the Colts.
Okay, so
Lou Anarumo went to the Colts.
That's done. I didn't have it as official. I thought there was a lot of people making that connection. So Deshae Townsend is a guy who they interviewed from Detroit. Now, maybe if you're Dan Campbell, you're thinking about promoting from within. A lot of people think that Aaron Glenn is about to take that New York Jets job. He's a front runner there. So maybe Detroit promotes from within, which is something that I think Dan Campbell would consider doing. So maybe his name would come off the board. And so, yeah, Brandon Staley, who I got to say, it seems no other team has been linked to Brandon Staley. Have you even heard, Larry, of him taking a single interview with another franchise? Brandon Staley seems to have no juice behind his name anywhere but in San Francisco.
He can't interview. He works for the Niners.
Okay.
They have to give him permission, I believe.
But
he's not able to go interview anywhere else right now.
But we get that story about how teams turn down permission to interview all the time. I haven't heard a single turn down permission to interview with Brandon Staley story. Have you?
No. I haven't heard anybody make a request to interview him. But I mean, let's not pretend like he's some terrible coach. He's, he started at Northern Illinois as a grad assistant. Let's talk about Brandon Staley for just a second. Started at Northern Illinois in 2006 as a grad assistant. Worked at a small school in Minnesota, St. Thomas. Worked at another small school, Hutchinson. Then was a grad assistant in 2012 at Tennessee. Coached at John Carroll, was the defensive coordinator and secondary coach at John Carroll University, which is thought to be a good coaching kind of stepping stone. James Madison. Well, it's a good school. It's a good school, and it's supposed to be a good program. James Madison is also a good school and a good program. He was the defensive coordinator, linebacker coach there. Then he went back to John Carroll, was the defensive coordinator. Then he got his first opportunity in the NFL as the Bears outside linebacker coach, 2017, 2018. Jumped to Denver in 2019 in the same job. Then became the Rams defensive coordinator in 2020. Only there for 1 year. Then was the Chargers head coach in 2021, 2 and 3, and then now the Niners as a assistant head coach, where he worked with corners this year, and we're not 100% sure exactly what he's done. But I mean, it is interesting. I mean, it's like a long kind of deliberate career going, where he's a grad assistant to, defensive position coach to outside linebacker coach. To all of a sudden, usually in the pecking order, it's usually D-line coach and secondary coach are generally higher up than the linebacker coach. Generally, I would say, not always, but generally. And he went from outside linebacker coach to defensive coordinator in 1 year. And supposedly the Rams had a good year in 2020. They hired him as their replacement for Wade Phillips. And in his only year, he helped the Rams defense to first in points allowed, first in yards allowed. And that's what vaulted him into stardom right away. And then he got hired by the Chargers to take over for Anthony Lynn. And then it didn't go great, right? He was only 500 as a coach, 24 and 24, and he lost his only playoff game. 9-7 record.
The Aiden O'Connell Raiders hung 60 on the guy. So that was pretty much the end of all good feelings and tidings down in Los Angeles. I mean, it was bad.
That's kind of, where, I mean, okay, so he gets hired in January of 21. Okay, so he makes his debut. He leads the Chargers to a 9-7 record in the first year. And then the second year, he leads the Chargers to a 10-7 record, and they finished second place in the division.
Right, and he was being hailed as ahead of the curve, going for it on fourth down, the uber aggressive, shooting from the hip young coach who is all about the sabermetrics and the analytics of aggression.
And he went for a couple fourth downs in high-profile situations and failed. The third season, they got off to a 5-9 start, and as you said, that's the game that you referenced. They lost 63-21 to the Raiders on national TV, Thursday Night Football, and he was fired. He was fired December 15th, and and then of course that led him to the Niners. Niners hired him as an assistant head coach in May. And I had a chance to interview him this summer and talk to him. He seems like a really sharp guy. He really does. Now, Demo Lenore claims that he is the Kyle Shanahan of the 49ers defense and that he coached up the corners incredibly well and that his knowledge was impressive. This is also a guy who beat cancer, back in 2006. So, I mean, it's not like this guy's never had any struggles in his life. He's definitely had some struggles. I'll say this. I guess I don't fully get, Damon, why there's so much vitriol in Ninerland for this young coach. I mean, think about it. Think about a 3-year span. 3-year span. We take out 1 year all the time. Heck, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are telling us to disregard this year, right? Where they won 6 games. So it happens. But you go on a 3-year run here with Brandon Staley. 2020, he's the number 1 defensive coordinator in football. They had Aaron Donald and they had some good players, but number 1 in points, number 1 in yards. So he's got the number 1 defense in 2020. Then he jumps to the Chargers, and I don't know what the Chargers did before he got there, but they went 9-8 and 10-7 in his first 2 years. And made the playoffs in that second year and lost to Jacksonville in the wild card game in the AFC. They come back that 2023 year. They go 5-9. He gets fired, and that pretty much leads you to the present day. So I don't know. I mean, number 1 in defense in his only year as a coordinator is good, and I'll take 19 wins in the first 2 years. Of the Charger franchise. I don't know what the Chargers did in 2020. I guess I could look that up. But 9-8 and 10-7.
Well, look,
those aren't terrible records, right?
Leave it to me to try to explain away fan vitriol. But what I think is at the forefront of any frustration with this would be, we all agreed at that postseason press conference where Kyle and John Lynch basically said, we're moving off of Sorensen as defensive coordinator. We need some new eyes on this. We need some new ideas. We need sort of a reset here. If this next season begins with the reset essentially being Brandon Staley is now the defensive coordinator and Nick Sorensen is the special teams coordinator, it's hardly going to sound like a reset. And that's going to upset fans. But the truth is, and look, Larry, you're down there almost every day. And not even you can tell us what Brandon Staley did for this year. No one really knows what Brandon Staley did, other than the Diamador Lenore, very flattering commentary about how helpful he's been and how he leads these meetings and how he's really helpful in secondary meetings. There's not a lot of knowledge of what he actually did. So no one really knows what credit or demerits to assign to him. And it's just this unknown nebulous of a name that's been easy to make fun of around NFL circles. So that's what I think has got people a little frustrated. Plus, Robert Saleh's the guy who looks the part. Like if you called Hollywood Central Casting and said, send me a defensive coordinator, like the guy who walked in the room who looked like Robert Saleh would probably get the part. The guy looks like Mr. Clean who's doing bench presses. He just...
And yet Niner fans wanted Robert Saleh out before the Niners drafted Nick Bosa. I mean, people forget, Niner fans did not like Robert Saleh at the beginning. Right. They did not. They were not all in on Robert Saleh. They weren't all in on Robert Saleh till the Niners got Nick Bosa and started to really turn the corner defensively. Then it was like, yeah, Robert Saleh, Robert Saleh. So I don't know. This is the defense, especially in the NFL. It's a players' league. You're a fan of the Bears. You showed me that 85 Bears picture the other day. That was talent and scheme coming together at the right time. But that was unique. The 46 defense was a unique. Nobody had seen it before. Nobody knew how to block it. Nobody knew how to deal with it. It was, and then you had the Fridge and Hampton and McMichael and Wilbur Marshall and Mike Singletary and Otis Wilson, all these guys on a front seven that were just, it was too much talent and too much scheme all at once.
The secret words were Dave Duerson.
Dave Duerson. Oh. Dave Duerson. Gary Fensick. And we're talking about a lot of great players there. There was a lot of great talent. But it was also a scheme that was like, what do we do? How do we block it? Where do we? There's too many guys coming. We can't handle it. Too much pressure. Well, there isn't that right now. We're not at that point in history. We haven't seen these unbelievable defensive wrinkles in the last couple of years that separate, this team from that team. It's right. About the dudes. It's about the guys.
Yeah.
Niners had the guys a couple of years ago. They were really good. This year, they didn't have the guys. It was Devondre Campbell and, other guys. I mean, so they weren't as good. And they won't be as good unless they get new guys, whether they hire Staley or Saleh or Deshae Townsend or somebody that we're not thinking of. They're not going to be good because of this coordinator hire. They're going to be good because they draft better defenders in April. So I'm not going to lose my mind over this. But I don't. The people that are over the top negative about Brandon Staley, you have to be bringing something more to the table than the Raiders beat them and scored 60. There's got to be more to it than that. And I haven't heard any substantive rip of Brandon Staley. I'm not saying that I'm a huge Brandon Staley fan. I'm not, but I mean, if we're going to be fair, he had 1 year as a defensive coordinator. They were number one in defense in yards and points. So that's pretty good.
Hey, we don't
get much better.
We don't know what he did. We don't know how much credit to assign to him. We don't know how much blame to assign to him. He sort of had an undefined role. It doesn't seem like other teams are knocking down the door for Brandon Staley. So it would seem like an easy turnaround on premises hire when I think the promise of this offseason was going to be, hey, we're going to leave no stone unturned to bring in the best, and so it would. I'm not saying it won't work out. I'm not saying that there's reason to just doubt it before it even happens, but I could see why it's going to leave people upset because people just love getting upset about everything. Like Brock Purdy is literally off to one of the best starts any young quarterback has ever had, and people are so upset about that. So,
but here's the thing: there's a right and wrong way to be upset. Your wife comes in and she's upset with you. Is it legit? Well, yeah. If Damon, you left the sprinkler on and the backyard's flooded. Well, that's probably a legit, complaint, right?
I did say I was going to turn it off, but then I forgot.
But if she just walks in the room and says, Damon, you're trash.
What now?
Yeah.
What is it now?
Kind of like Robert Garcia here. Let's just say we'll substitute Robert Garcia for your wife. Damon is trash, Larry. It's like, well, I mean, trash. Sorry, Robert. I'm going to need a little bit more than that. Oh, Martinez Larkin. Trash.
It's a really easy word to type into a chat, Larry. I see it all the time. And look at it this way. If the word's hard for you, you can go with a trash can emoji. I see that all the time in 49er analysis.
49er red zone. I'm neutral on Staley because I don't know what he did.
Fair. That's very fair.
How about here's a name? Since we're in the, we're not just going to get around in the, this guy's trash. I'd say all I would say to anybody like Robert Garcia, you just called the guy trash. So obviously you have strong feelings. So that must mean you have strong information. So go ahead. Share with us, Robert, what led you to the trash? What led you to Brandon Staley's trash? I'm not even saying you're wrong. I just am interested to know your methodology. I'd like to know how let's pretend this is high school math. Don't give me the answer. Show me your work in the margin. Okay? Show me your work in the margin. Tell me that Brandon Staley is trash because what? Because his coverages don't work, because he's over aggressive, because he's this or that, because he loses the locker room, because his personality is that, because he goes for fourth downs at this rate. Give me something other than he's trash. This one is interesting. From G. Verajuzzi. How about Wade Phillips? Now, Wade Phillips might be 75 years old at this point. I don't know how old Wade Phillips is. Brandon Staley took over for Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips was the Rams defensive coordinator when they did win the Super Bowl.
He is
I like the idea of Wade Phillips.
77 years old, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, he's old. I don't know if, and it's a young man's game. That's the thing. These guys work 120 hours in the week. They're sleeping in their offices. If you're 70, sometimes you lose a little bit of the passion for that. But Wade Phillips is the kind of defensive coordinator I think is the kind of defensive coordinator that Shanahan needs. And you say, well, what kind is that? He's just so experienced and so well thought of that, like, when he was the Rams defensive coordinator, he was like the head coach of the defense. And when the defense was on the field, you wouldn't even see McVay on the sideline sometimes. He'd literally be back on the bench talking to the quarterback, talking to his offensive linemen, because he believed so fully in Wade Phillips, and Wade Phillips had it all covered on that side of the ball. I kind of think that's what Shanahan needs. He's already doing a ton. How about take all of the defensive concern away? Get somebody who's so veteran and so experienced that you can just hand them the entire thing and say, you got it.
It's exactly what Philadelphia did with Vic Fangio, right? They basically said, it's yours. You're one of the oldest coordinators in the league. You've seen it all. You've done it all. Here you go. Sirianni walks down the right hallway. You go down the left hallway. You're probably not even going to get along, but who cares? Just do your job over there. Okay. I mean, you could convince me that, a guy like Wade Phillips would be the right hire. I would much more be interested, I think, in Robert Saleh, who's just a little bit more contemporary. I think what Robert Saleh would bring to the table differently, having been stung by the Jets and all that head coach that he, went on to be, what did he learn? How is he different? I'd love to see that answered, but we don't even know if the 49ers are going to get to ask him the question, because Liam Cohn, the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who was a lot of people thought was the front runner for the Jacksonville job, has pulled his name out of that job. Big money to stay in Tampa. So we'll see what the game of musical chairs looks like when it is all said and done. I got a question, Larry, about...
Cohn, by the way, is going to be the highest paid, one of the game's highest paid coordinators.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're, offering Saleh, right? No one's going to make more money coaching defense than you. And I almost think that it so further insulates him from another disaster. Like, it's really hard to get another head coaching job if you have a head coaching job burnout with the Jets, which I think everybody kind of rolls their eyes at and understands. And then it's the Jaguars. Yeah, it's another sort of famously dysfunctional situation, but, good ownership group. Trent Baalke, probably you get to reset him at one point if you're the next head coach. But do you want to walk into that uncertainty? Do you want to attach more losing to your head coaching reputation, or would it be better to take a huge pile of money to come on back and coach a halfway decent defense against a last place schedule? I would be interested in that if I were Robert Saleh. I see merits in both directions. But what I wanted to ask you about in terms of all sorts of internal promotions, how come Chris Kosurik's name is never mentioned? I thought Kosurik was one of the most on the rise position coaches in football just a few years ago, when whoever he put his hands on that defensive line seemed to have, a bounce back year, a career year, a tapped into all your potential level year. Now, we know it wasn't a very good defensive line year for the 49ers this year, and how much blame Kosurik gets for that is up to you. But it seems like Chris Kosurik is just completely stalled out in any sort of conversation of external promotion, internal promotion.
He's a
What
line
happened?
coach. He's a line coach.
All right, that's all he wants to be.
He's
No
a
more
line coach. Yeah, I
aspirations
mean,
than that. He's a young man.
he's a line coach. I think he doesn't want necessarily to be the coordinator. I think he likes doing what he does.
He saw Jim Tom Sula happen in front of his eyes and says, "No, not for me. I don't want to do that."
It's Joe Bugle. Was a great offensive line coach, not a great head coach. I don't know if Chris knows himself and he can't do the job, or if he doesn't, if he just loves what he's doing. But these jobs are all different. I mean, it is quite a bit different. Like what you're doing as a D line coach and what you're doing as the coordinator, quite a bit different. So, some guys, he's really, really good as a D line coach, and I don't think he wants to switch. I guarantee you, he's had opportunities to put his name in the running, and I'm sure he's expressed that he likes doing what he's doing. That would be my guess. I don't have the definitive word, but that would be my guess. The interesting thing on this Saleh thing, Damon, is it may come down to Trent Baalke. Just reading on Pro Football Rumors this morning about this Liam Cohen deal to stay in Tampa. He was. I guess today was supposed to be Cohen's second interview with the Jags. But Cohen didn't board the plane for Jacksonville. He's only 39, by the way. He was negotiating with the Bucs all along. And so they obviously worked it out. So he's going to stick around, continue to work with Baker Mayfield. But it's the second time that, we've seen kind of deals fall apart. And a lot from what I'm hearing, what I'm reading here, that the Jaguars' decision for Shad Khan to retain Trent Baalke, who's running the head coaching search, has made some of the candidates want to steer clear of Trent Baalke. And they're saying for a second head coaching cycle, his presence is affecting their viability as a destination. He was close to a deal with Byron Leftwich in 2022, and then I guess Baalke's presence impacted the search. They led them ultimately to Doug Peterson. Peterson expressed apprehension regarding Baalke, and then Baalke outlives Peterson, despite the fact that Peterson won a Super Bowl and Baalke's never won shit. So it's like, it is interesting that maybe if you're Robert Saleh, you don't want any part of that, just simply because it seems that Trent Baalke is kind of a survivor. And if they were this incredible, talented team, they probably would have won more games. And Trent Baalke's doing the picking. So maybe the presence of Trent Baalke will make Robert Saleh not want to be there. As you said, he's already gotten one opportunity in a kind of a bad situation. If this opportunity gets ruined because at least half of the opportunity or the first year or two gets ruined because you've got to come in and quickly figure out a way to power play Baalke out of there with the owner, maybe that's not what Robert Saleh wants. Maybe he'll steer clear as well.
Yeah,
who knows? It's very rare. It's very rare. These coaches all want to be head coaches. It's very rare for any coordinator to take himself out of a head coach conversation. So I'm very shocked that Cohen did this, and maybe it's the presence of Baalke, and maybe Saleh will do the same.
Lots to keep an eye on. It's only Wednesday. We'll see if this dust settles Friday. There'll probably be very little news happening over the weekend. The NFL doesn't want anything on Sunday, competing with Championship Sunday. So it's time to make a decision. I think we accused the 49ers of slow playing some business decisions in the offseason. Now, they can't force somebody to make a decision while they're still waiting to see what they're going to do. But it's time to shore this up for the 49ers for sure. Since we've been just talking defense and defensive line, let me put a name in front of you, Larry. And what do you think about Khalil Mack? Because the 49ers conceptually could add Khalil Mack right now. He's 33 years old and is set to be an unrestricted free agent for the very first time in his 11-year, future Hall of Fame career. He said he needed to think about his career after the Chargers got bounced from the postseason. He has, and he said he's coming back. He had 6 sacks this year, 2 more in that wild card loss to Houston. The Chargers are hoping to bring him back. Would you be interested in the 49ers picking up the phone, talking to Khalil Mack about maybe paying him a little bit more to come to San Francisco than he would make staying down in L.A.?
Well, how's the foot? that's, I guess, the first question. I mean, he's got kind of a bad foot that he hurt in Chicago. How's that foot feeling? That would be my first thing. Does the foot check out? He had a 17 sack season in 2023, but he only had 6 in 2024. He did go to the Pro Bowl again, and there's no question that him and Joey Bosa were a big part of the number one defense that Jesse Minter put together this year.
What's Khalil Mack think of Brandon Staley?
Well, that's the thing. What does Brandon Staley think of Khalil Mack? What does he think of them? Of Brandon? He only missed 1 game as a Charger, so that's good. He's 34, so he's gonna be 34 in February, I should say.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
older. Where did that time go? Isn't that amazing? I mean, I remember I was just up in Napa 15 minutes ago interviewing him after his very first training camp practice with the Raiders. That time does go fast, man.
Oh, the guy, and first of all, he's had a great career. I mean, he was 4th pick overall. He's made $170 million in his career.
He's on the
Hall of Fame radar. He's got 107.5 career sacks. So if he could have one more big season, he's 32nd on the career sack list. If he could have one more big season as a sack master, he probably could lock up that Hall of Fame situation for himself pretty nicely. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. The Niners obviously are going to be looking for, I don't know what his price tag can be. I mean, that's the thing about the 49ers. They don't have a lot of money. They're not in their money period right now. There's all these teams out there that are going to have cap room, and they're not one of them. So they have a lot of cap room in the present, but as we all know, a lot of that's earmarked for Brock Purdy. So,
I mean,
how much money are the Niners going to have, I guess?
It can't be huge. You'd think Khalil Mack, 2-year, $30 million deal. Yeah, I mean, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in anybody who can get to the passer. I mean, you're going to have to redo this defensive line to some degree, right? I think you need 2 new defensive tackles, and you could probably use a couple more edge rushers to go with what you have. But Mack would be incredible. I mean, obviously, it would mean that you're not bringing back Leonard Floyd and you're going in that direction, but that's no problem. I thought Floyd was good this year. He wasn't great, but I thought he was good. So, I mean, to me, I would try to push away from this mindset of go get the name guy. I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, go get Myles Garrett." No, they don't need one name guy. No more. I understand the one name guy is the dream of the casual fan because you don't know anybody. So you're like, "Oh, get Myles Garrett." Oh, get this guy. He's got a big name. But after a while, this is kind of where the Niners are. I tried to explain this to people last year. There's an old, eventually all you have is the name on the back of the jersey, and you're not that player anymore. Well, the Niners have like 5 guys like that. Do they need to add another guy who has a big name but is not a shadow, is just a shadow of what he used to be? I mean, that's kind of that's kind of the road they're going down with the Debos, the Ayuks, the Trents, the Kittles, the Bosas eventually. They're going to have all these guys with big names and big contracts that don't do it. How about this? How about let's not worry about getting, Khalil Mack. How about go scout the draft and find the next Khalil Mack? How about that? And maybe take 2 or 3 shots in on day 3. Seeing that you could find pass rushers that you really like. I'd like there's some kind of cheap late in the draft pass rushers that are going to be interesting, that can really get it done, but they're not quite the right shape, not quite the right height, not quite the right weight. But they're out there and they're good. It's like I'd rather take a chance on 2 or 3 of those guys and see if you can find the next sleeper edge rusher in the 6th round than throw a bunch of cash at a guy who's maybe at the end. So we'll see. I'd have to investigate his physical situation because that's really what it's about.
Let me tell you what it's all about down in Half Moon Bay. It's about going to Sam's Chowder House. Great place to go. Our sponsor here on Wake Up. Thank you for watching Wake Up. Hit like and subscribe. We co-stream on both these channels 3 days a week. Make sure you've liked and subscribed to both The Krug Show and Damon Bruce Plus. And I got to tell you, Larry, yesterday was National New England Clam Chowder Day. Big Chowder picked yesterday as its day. We don't talk about the chowder very much. We don't even show the chowder in the Chowder House's name. Their chowder is fantastic. If you are still observing, if you're observing National New England Clam Chowder Day a day late, do it down at Sam's Chowder House. We thank them as always. Hit like and subscribe. Our good friends. It's great to have you here. Dude, are you a New England clam chowder person, or are you a Manhattan clam chowder person? The Manhattan clam chowder is kind of a tomato-based look. The New England clam chowder is very pale, very cream-based. Yes.
What would you? What's your? I'm not okay. I'll say this. I'll full disclosure. When we go down there, the kids always wind up getting chowder. I've never been a big chowder fan. I love seafood and I love Sam's, but I never order the chowder itself. There's so many great things that a soup is always like down the list for me.
You don't want to fill up on the bowl of soup. You're there for other things. I totally get it. That's good strategy.
I love a good soup. Like if it's really cold, the right time, December, it's cold, chili or soup sounds really, really good. And I think it would be great. And I've had some of my daughter's New England clam chowder, and it's really, really good. But it's just not quite for me. You know what I mean?
Soup is a weather-dependent meal, right? No one wants soup on a hot, sunny day.
You gotta have to be in the right mood.
Yeah, you gotta have the right soup mood for sure. I'm a New England guy, but I am not anti-Manhattan at all. And when we were down there, we were asking, I think, Paul Shankman about this. He's got it's his restaurant. He can do whatever he wants. He goes double ladle. He goes half Manhattan, half New England, kind of puts them together for a little tomato creamy, all-encompassing Frankenstein of clam chowders. So that
sounds really good, actually.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Somebody I'm a New England clam chowder guy. Yeah, I am absolutely.
D loses gumbo over chowder.
Big gumbo guy. I'll even say jambalaya over gumbo.
Ooh, so now jambalaya, the sausage
up in the ante.
I'll tell you what I had one time there that was just amazing too. They had prawns wrapped in bacon, stuffed with crab. I mean,
you rendered me speechless.
With over garlic mashed potatoes with a slight, little green onion on the top. It was amazing. Think about that. A big juicy prawn stuffed inside with crab, rolled in bacon. I mean, it was.
Thanks to Sam's Chowder House for sponsoring us. Thanks to all of you for watching us. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the subscribes. Thanks for the notifies. Thanks to our members. And thanks to Twitter yesterday, Larry, we got some compensatory draft pick information. 49ers have 10 draft picks just sitting right in front of them as they walk up to the table. Compensatory draft picks identified yesterday. The 49ers are picking up 2 4th-rounders, a 7th-rounder, and they're also going to get a 3rd-round compensatory pick for the Rand Carthon, D'Amico Ryans hires back in 2023. So that comes late. But the 49ers have 10 picks, 6 of their original earned them themselves draft picks, and 4 more compensatory picks. Game on. I mean, what they do with those picks, trading back from 11 feels and sounds like the right thing to do right off the rip to me. It'll be interesting to see if they feel that same way, Larry. But what do you think about the compensatory picks coming in?
Well, first of all, the Niners, I think, have been as good as any team in pro football at working these angles, whether it be, giving opportunities to minority hires, having them be hired away, getting picks that way, or just allowing the rank and file free agent to walk and really kind of prioritizing 1 or 2 free agents over a bunch of guys, which I think is the way to go. If you ask me what's the best way to play personnel in the NFL, I like the way the Green Bay Packers do it, which is Did they invest in free agents? Yeah, but they only went and got two great ones. They got Xavier McKinney on defense, and they got Josh Jacobs on offense. They got true difference-making guys. Those guys came in. They made a huge impact. Now the Pack are done, and their season's over, but not because of Gutekunst. I thought his plan is great, and that's the plan I'd have if I were the 49ers. If you want to go all in, like on an individual, do it in free agency. Don't give me a bunch of free agents. Give me a bunch of build your team through the draft and with guys who don't get drafted. Those guys are the guys I want for the most part. But I'll take 2 or 3 targeted free agents that are perfect, that are absolutely what you're looking for. But I don't like the idea. Like, I know Washington did it this year, and I think the Washington Commanders may win the Super Bowl. And you know what? If they do, you may see a bunch of teams copy what Adam Peters did this year. They signed 22 free agents, Damon. They signed 22 free agents. They went and signed all these guys from all these different teams. You name it. Clee Farrell from here and, across the board, all kinds of dudes. Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs. And they just went and bought up 20 free agents. And if they win the Super Bowl, maybe teams will copy them.
Look, they were able to do that before anyone really considered them a free agent destination. They were able to sign 22 free agents because they were signing middle tier free agents. They weren't obviously 22 top tier blue chipper free agents, but that's how they filled out a roster that needed a big turnover. Adam Peters got really aggressive. Bob Myers is 4 quarters away from a Super Bowl appearance. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah. They really did add a ton of talent to their team. I'm just looking at their depth chart right now. Rookie-wise, Luke McCaffrey, Jaden Daniels, Ben Sinnott, Johnny Newton, Mikey Sainristil still on defense. So that's a lot right there. But then if you go closer, there's all kinds of free agents here. They brought in Zacchaeus, the receiver from Philly. They brought in KJ Osborne, a receiver from New England. They brought in Nick Allegretti. They're starting him at left guard. They brought in Tyler Biadasz from Dallas. He's their starting center. You know what I mean? They brought in Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs. They brought in Marcus Mariota to be their backup quarterback. They brought in Zach Ertz. They brought in Austin Eckler. That's just on offense. And then on defense, they brought in a bunch of guys. Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler, both from Dallas. Cleveland Farrell from the Niners. So that's 3 new defensive linemen. They brought in Bobby Wagner from Seattle. They brought in Frankie Louvu from Carolina. Great signing. They brought in Jeremy Chin from Carolina. They traded for Marshawn Lattimore from New Orleans. They brought in Noah Igbenogany, the corner, who was a former first-round pick who had played in Miami and Dallas. They went out and attacked the free agent market with a vengeance. And they brought in Nick Ballore, a special team linebacker from Seattle. They just went and brought in a ton of new faces. And it'll be interesting to see if Bobby Wagner do win it all. What will be teams? Teams always want to copy the team that wins it all. But let's just say Washington is able to win it all. Teams are either going to copy one of 2 things. They're either going to look for the athletic quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and that's what they're going to get out of this.
That's going to happen anyways.
Yeah, or which is good news for Cam Ward and good news for Shedeur Sanders because they are the athletic quarterbacks at the top of this draft.
I think we got Mel Kiper having Cam Ward going number 1 in his last mock.
Yeah, I agree. Though it's funny because I had Matt Miller on last night and I asked him about the number 1 pick and he's like, I'm not convinced on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I need to see more from both before I feel comfortable. And I understand totally where he's coming from because Cam Ward was not very good at Wazoo and he was really good at Miami. There was yet there was some inconsistency in his play. So I think people want to look at him more. And then Shedeur, there's wild range of opinions all over the map on Shedeur. Some people say he's not a first-round pick. Other people say he's going to be the first pick overall. So that's a gigantic evaluation that still needs to happen. But maybe teams will look at the Commanders and say, you know what? We need to go sign, a ton of free agents. and for not necessarily stars, but we need to go sign a bunch of free agents and plug them in and be ready to roll, because that, what the Commanders did, and Bob Myers was a big part of this, is that the Commanders are looking at their situation. They know that they're a iconic brand that's down, that's dormant. They also know they're in one of the most outdated stadiums. FedEx Field is one of the most outdated stadiums in the entire league. So they brought in Bob Myers to accelerate the rebuild, to give them credibility, to get the top tier executive, which they got in Adam Peters, who Myers knew from UCLA, so they could start drafting better players, so they could win in the present, so they could then, get the momentum for a stadium. And their whole plan was to win right away and get the momentum going for a stadium referendum, get it on the ballot, get out of FedEx, get into a, major new stadium, and increase the value of your franchise the way the 49ers have, the way the Rams have, the way that all the teams that move from an outdated stadium to a state-of-the-art facility that has tons of the non-shared revenue, which is the revenue from the stadium. The stadium revenue is all you. So you share everything, TV, gambling, it's all shared. But what you advertising and everything suites, you keep it all. And the Commanders are behind the revenue, race, and they know they need to. That's why Myers is there. And what an amazing job!
He's great. He's great at shaking hands and kissing babies and making people who felt funny about the Daniel Snyder ownership group feel great about the new ownership group that has come into Washington. Bob Myers is like the perfect front guy, and as Sporticus says right here, Bob is a PhD in career pathing. He sure as hell does. I mean, he got off the Warriors sinking ship at the perfect time, went and did really good work on TV, creating his profile, just rising on ESPN, stepping into the NFL, which all the smart animals in the world of sports are stepping into football in some way, because that's where the money and the attention is. Yeah, Bob Myers is a smart cat. Be like Bob Myers in your life, boys and girls. He is smart. He anticipates. He knows the right time to get out of Dodge. He knows the right team to go join. He's a winner, man. He really is.
I'd like to get him on the show, just to even on the KMBR Niners show, just to bend his ear on the football side. I know he's been asked and interviewed so many times about basketball, but I'd love to know the genesis and the origins of how it all came together between Bob and Peters. Because obviously they have that connection from UCLA, but there had to be some initial meetings. There had to be an initial, showing of interest. And was Myers the person who showed that interest? Did he bridge that gap? Did he, I got to think that he probably did. And I'd love to hear the story of how it came together, because I think the Commanders are going to win 2 more games. I really do. I really do. I think the Commanders are going to win 2 more games and be champions of the NFL.
I still think the Eagles are going to beat them. But if you give me the Commanders winning the Super Bowl, that's fantastic. The only way they could have a better year is if at the end of the Super Bowl they said, "Oh, anyway, we're going to go back to Redskins next year." It's the better team name. It's not offensive. We don't live in a world of everyone is offended anymore, hopefully. So let's go back to the brand.
I know people might hear that take from you and be like, "That is ridiculous." Go do your own research. This was not ever intended to be offensive. The Indian tribes are for the name being the Redskins. They're not against the Redskin moniker.
Right. The logo that people say is so offensive, the Indian with a feather in his hair was created by an Indian.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we've decided that we know better than everybody else what's offensive and what isn't offensive. And look, see, Jesus Manuel Mena Garza here. No Redskins, it's offensive.
Yeah, you can't find an actual Native American to agree with that, though. Not one. Yeah,
there's many Native American groups that are pushing for them to go back to the Redskins. This is not something we're making up. Go look it up. It's out there.
It's equivalent of the Blackhawks. It's the equivalent of the Florida State Seminoles. You have the tribes that people insist are being wronged, endorsing it. The Blackhawk tribe has said the Chicago Blackhawks honor us with that hockey sweater. There is nothing offensive about it, about the name. It keeps our name alive. Same thing down in Seminole County with the Florida State Seminoles. The Seminole Nation is honored the way that they're represented by Florida State. So let's just, again, I'm all tired of what's offended. By the way, just because you're offended by something doesn't mean you're right. Just because something offends you doesn't mean that you are now right about that topic. So thank you very much.
Now we, of course, got Jake in here. Jake Lemire is a Native American. He says, native here, it's a racist term. Thank you, Jake. Thank you for your contribution.
Hey, I would go back to it.
anyway.
That's just me. By the way, Larry, there's one thing that we got to get to that you showed me right before we came on the air that I think is fascinating, and we talk about the evolution of football. Yesterday on my show, I was talking about how kicking field goals inside the 20 should be a dead concept. If you are looking at 4th and short, if you are looking at 4th and makeable, 4th and 6, 4th and 7, this is a makeable play. If it's 4th and 14, go ahead, kick your field goal. But if it's 4th and absolutely in the realm of convertible, I think you got to be aggressive. And we've seen that over and over again. Now, sometimes, live by the sword, die by the sword. Dan Campbell died by his own aggressive sword in last year's NFC title game. Dan Campbell died by the aggressive sword of the Washington Commanders in his playoff game this year. The Commanders kept on going for it on 4th down instead of settling for field goals. So they were done right when Campbell got done wrong just a year ago. But I like the thinking. And when it comes to going for it on 4th down, Larry, causation, correlation, I don't know, but put up the graphic, because sometimes a graphic says 1,000 words. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, here you go, boys and girls. The 4 most aggressive teams on 4th down are the 4 remaining teams in the NFL. Fascinating. Fascinating, Larry.
Well, it's not the most aggressive because we don't know the number of times, but this is the teams that are actually having the most success.
Oh, okay. Thank
down.
you. Okay. All right. Let's get it right. Get it right.
Well, no, I mean, these teams, it is amazing, though. The 4 teams that are left in the playoffs are the Commanders and Eagles in the NFC and the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC. Those same 4 teams are the top teams in the NFL in this stat, 4th down conversion rate. Okay, so that means they convert at the highest clip. The highest clip of converting in the NFL is the Washington Commanders. They're at 87.9%. They convert 87.9% of their 4th downs into 1st downs, largely because of Jaden Daniels.
Everyone was complaining about the brotherly shove, the tush push, because it was just way too automatic on 4th down. The Commanders this year are converting 4th down at a greater rate than the tush push created it for the Eagles last year. So maybe we should outlaw Jaden Daniels.
Or, and they do have a big power back, and they do have, Eckler, and so they have different things that they can do probably in a quick amount of time that make you as a defense make a quick decision. So I'm sure that's part of it. I haven't watched every Commander game, but they're converting 87%, and it's so far away the number one percentage. The second place Bills are 72.7%. So I mean they're 15% better than the second place team. The Commanders are that good on 4th down.
It's a crazy number.
It's a crazy number. It's an aberration.
Even if it's a small sample size, it's still a crazy number.
But it isn't a small sample size. It's the entire season. So There you go. So you got the Commanders number 1. You got the Bills number 2 at 72.7%. You got the Chiefs number 3 at 70.6%. You got the Eagles number 4 at 70.4%. Then there is also a little bit of a divide because the Broncos are next at 68. But here's my point. If you go beyond those top 4 and just look at the top 11, Commanders, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Broncos, Falcons, Rams, Lions, Bucks, Chargers, Texans. That's the top 11. Of the top 11 teams in 4th down conversion rate, only the Atlanta Falcons missed the playoffs. That's pretty impressive. Now, if you go to the bottom of the list and look at the bottom, Cowboys, Steelers, Titans, Jets, Cardinals, the worst 5 teams. Only the Steelers of those bottom 5 teams made the playoffs. And the Cowboys were the worst. They converted 35.7% of their fourth downs, which is interesting because their center, who's a big part of it, you would imagine, just jumped to where? Oh, yeah, the Commanders, who were at the top. So maybe Tyler Biadasz has something to do with the Commanders being really good on fourth down and the Cowboys being the worst in the league on fourth down. But we don't care about any of these teams. We care about the Niners. And here they are right here. They're 50% tied with the Packers. That's 24th in the NFL out of 32 teams in fourth down conversion rate. If you convert on fourth down, your offense stays on the field. If your offense stays on the field, you're probably going to score more points. And if nothing else, you're playing good complementary ball and you're keeping your defense on the sideline. And the fact that the Niners are 24th in this category, it's like, there's not the one thing that we know for sure is that like Demo Lenore is not impacting this. Mooney Ward is not impacting this. This is a very specific stat. Fourth down conversion rate we're talking about your center, your guards, and your back. And if you have a fullback, your fullback. So the 49ers have to get better at center, at the guard spots. I mean, obviously Pooney is part of getting better, but they need to upgrade at the center spot. They need to find themselves a back that has great contact balance or great power or both. And they got to start running the ball inside the 5, and you got to get a better fullback. The 49ers have a Pro Bowl fullback, and they're horrible in short yardage, and they can't run inside the 5-yard line. They're awful running in the low red zone. So get rid of Juice. Go get a bigger-bodied fullback that can uproot people out of the hole. I love CMC, and Mason's nice. He's got nice footwork, but go get a power back who, can absolutely take it up in there. McCaffrey is not a power back. So go get a power back, go get a better fullback, and go get a better center, and start running the ball on fourth and less than 5, unless you're inside your own 30-yard line. And that right there would change.
You're right about the beef. You're right. If you want to dominate in short yardage, fourth and short, fourth and convertible, you need to be better up front. You need more power. You need all of that. But I also think you need Kyle Shanahan to look at football differently. And the fact that so many qualified playoff teams are now more aggressive on fourth down, I think means that the 49ers need to be more aggressive on fourth down, settling for the field goal. I'll tell you, when Notre Dame really lost the national championship game, they're down by 16. It's 4th and goal. And you had Marcus Freeman elect to kick a field goal, which, by the way, he missed. So he had a 2
loudly, by the way, that was the loudest missed field goal I've ever heard in my life.
A 2-score game that, even had you converted the field goal, remained a 2-possession game. There was no reason at all. And then when Notre Dame did score that late touchdown, you couldn't help but think, geez, had they not gone, had they scored another touchdown instead of settling for that field goal earlier, there'd be a tie game right here. So you got to be aggressive and just eliminate the concept of kicking a field goal inside the 20-yard line. I really think so. And this is, again, it's up to John Lynch to get Kyle the guys to succeed with, but then it's up to Kyle to make that choice. And Kyle, God bless him, is so freaking just like his dad, conservative. Take the points, take the field goal. It'll all come out in the wash. I just don't think that that's how you play anymore. And I do think that we need to say that there really is no difference between regular season football and postseason football. And you need to approach regular season games with postseason mentalities, because there aren't enough games. There are no disposable games. The Niners thought that they had a lot of disposable games at the early part of the year. And it turns out they were not. And that's why they're not in the postseason. Not to mention they weren't good enough to be. But I just think that the 49ers need to have some real self-evaluation about when to be aggressive, when to go for it. And we don't need to glorify this mistake we made selecting a kicker in the 3rd round. It's not Adam Vinatieri you fucking got there. It's Jake Moody. Run the play.
It's definitely more, I agree with you as far as it's definitely more of a Kyle Shanahan mindset issue. It's like, It's like he's got to kind of retrain his mind from his old thinking to more of a 4 down approach. Like right now, he's thinking, like old school. Like you get to 3rd and 4, you pass the ball, and if you throw it incomplete, you punt or kick the field goal, and that's it. But the modern analytics say that that 3rd and 4, you should run the ball and you should get down into a 4th and 1 situation and then power it across. It's 2 runs instead of a 1 pass. But you have to be willing to go for it quite a bit on 4th down. And if you look at the teams, I mean, the teams that really lean into the analytics, teams like Philly and Baltimore, they've been going for it on 4th down at a higher rate than some of these other teams. So obviously the analytics crowd is starting to see the value in mixing in a little bit more of an aggressive go for it mindset on 4th downs, because possession of the ball means so much. And you only have, look at the NFL. What do you have in limit? A very limited amount of. You have limited possessions in an NFL game. You may only have 8 to 10 possessions. In a college game, you're going to have like 15 to 18 possessions. You're going to have all kinds of possessions. In the pro game, you're not going to have 18 possessions. So if you turn the ball over, that's really, really painful. And the teams that won last weekend were plus 10 in the turnover margin. So,
well, and turnovers is it's at the center of every football conversation that's ever been had. There might be a new way to look at 4th down and field goals. Not turning the ball over is as old as the Mississippi River. I mean, it's just, if it means a lot in the regular season, it means twice as much in the postseason. The Eagles are plus 6 takeaways, 0 turnovers. They're in the NFC title game. The Washington Commanders this postseason are plus 6 takeaways, 0 turnovers. They're in the NFC title game.
Is this when are you reading for the year or for the playoffs?
Playoffs. Well, I'm bouncing back and forth here because the Bills are now on a 21-game streak of not losing a turnover battle in any game. It's the longest since the merger, and the Chiefs haven't turned the ball over yet this postseason either. Now, neither did the Texans in their loss to the Chiefs, but no Chiefs turnovers, so no turnovers for 3 of the 4 teams that are still alive, and the Bills, again, have a turnover plus streak that is historic. So... yeah. There you go.
That's really it. But it also kind of it shows that why are turnovers so painful? Because there's only so many possessions. It's all tied together. If you can get to, I mean, Kyle Shanahan passed the ball on 2nd and goal from the 4. And he passed the ball then when he didn't make anything. He passed the ball on 3rd and goal from the 4. Those are rundowns. You have to be able to run in the low red zone. So, and then, Matt Mayoko has reported that the Niners, if they are going to upgrade their offensive line this year, it's likely not going to be in free agency. It's more likely to be in the draft. I'm looking at the list of free agent centers, and Drew Dahlman is on here, and he went to Stanford, and they run a very similar system in Atlanta, and he's been really good. He's only 26. His dad played for the Niners. But I don't think the Niners are going to go for free agents along the offensive line. I think Mayoko's right. I think it's going to be a draft thing. So we'll see.
Then that's the perfect place to end the show with. And now we're going to get to the supers here in a second to end the show. But since you brought up drafting offensive linemen, let's talk about the last one that they did. Congratulations to Dominic Pooney, all rookie selection. He's the lone Niners rookie from a pretty good rookie class to make the all-rookie team. He joins Steelers center Zach Frazier, Raiders guard Jackson Powers-Johnson, Ravens right tackle Roger Rosengartens, and we talked about all of those guys. We linked every single one of those guys to the 49ers in last year's draft as well. All 3 of those guys made the all-rookie team. Pooney was excellent. He played 1,161 snaps. He didn't miss a start. He's light on his feet, but not light along the line of scrimmage. He's fast. He's quick in space. He hit a little bit of a rookie wall as to be expected, but he was available. He was consistent. And I think he's going to be a San Francisco 49er for a decade if he doesn't get hurt. Like, this guy looks really good. Awesome pick Big, fast, strong. Lots to feel good about. Congratulations to Dominic Pooney, all rookie selection. Huzzah.
He was the 25th offensive lineman drafted, and yet they said if there was a redraft, he would have been the first offensive lineman drafted.
How about that?
So that was a great pick for sure. To find that guy in the third round out of Kansas was tremendous. He, plug and play player. He did tire out and made some uncharacteristic mistakes late in the year, but man, this guy really wants to be good. He wants to be good. Early in the year when the Niners lost a game, he's there in the locker room half hour after the game, uniform still on, shaking his head, upset by the loss, and he's sitting there and he's talking to Aaron Banks about what he did wrong, and Banks is walking him through it and this and that. And it's like, you know what? A lot of guys at that point are already showered and out of the locker room, and they're already walking down the corridor headed to their car. This guy's still in his full uniform, 45 minutes later, trying to figure out, where things went south, in a conversation with Aaron Banks. And to me, so those are the things you don't see on the field. You don't see on the game. Is like you don't see the guy's commitment to the job. Everybody shows up for game time, but you don't know how committed they are. This guy is just fully committed, and he really, really wants to be good. And I would imagine he'll be a whole lot better next year. And now they found one. They got to go find 4 more guys like Dom Pooney and build themselves the line that's gonna usher in their 6th title, because they won't get this 6th title unless they build themselves a big time line. I'm pretty convinced of that. After watching the NFL this year and all the good offensive line, the Chiefs are incredible on the O line. The Lions fought left to right, I think, is the best line going. But then Buffalo's line, I mean, you look at the number of times Josh Allen was sacked this year. It's really, really, really low.
They smacked the Ravens around up front, too.
And the Ravens line is good. I mean, almost all these teams that are at the end, they have really good lines. So it's like you're not going to get there with some makeshift line. Even the Rams, I mean, look at the Rams. The Rams built up their defense this year, and it's high profile, but they also spent money on the offense and built up their offensive line. So
the 3 attributes that all teams still alive share are 3 attributes that the 49ers really need a lot of work on. Offensive line play, just when to be aggressive, and ball protection. Purdy turned it over a little bit too much. That was bad. Offensive line just didn't dominate the way that it used to, and that affected the running game, which directly correlated to Purdy getting too aggressive and the turnovers, and then just Kyle's mindset of settling for field goals, especially in the red zone. Niners need to improve in all 3 of those categories, and if they do, again, against the last place schedule, I like last year already more than I like this year, and I haven't even met next year yet. So
I just think that look at Hurts. I think that's the great guy to look at if you're Purdy. Study Jalen Hurts and study how the Eagles have had success. I mean, look at last year to this year. Last year, the Eagles had terrible vibes. They lost to Tampa in the playoffs. Hurts didn't look good. There was all kinds of discontent there. They changed out their coordinators, but what did they do? They brought in Mekhi Becton to their line. They lost Jason Kelsey to retirement, and they plugged in Cam Jurgens at center, a 310-pound center. They brought in a 360-pound right guard, and they allowed they brought in Saquon Barkley, and they just ran the hell out of the ball behind a big physical offensive line and took pressure off of Jalen Hurts. And what do the Niners need to do? Can Brock Purdy win a Super Bowl? Yeah, he can win a Super Bowl. Can he say, hey, guys, jump aboard my back, I'm carrying us? No, he can't. But if you give him a real good runner or two, if you give him a big, physical, powerful line that keeps the defensive line out of his face, I think you're going to see better decision-making in next year than you saw this year. You're going to see him play smarter football, and you're going to see them win a ton of games. But it starts with the O-line. You have to rebuild it. You have to rebuild it this year, and you need a guard, a center, and a tackle. You probably could use 4 offensive linemen, but you definitely need a center, you definitely need a guard, and you definitely need a tackle. And what do you got? You got Trent Williams at left tackle. You got Pooney at one of the guard spots. You got a couple guys that you like in Nugent and Zakel, that may be able to be in line for maybe the center spot. I think they're going to move off of Banks. I think they're going to move off of Brendel. And I think McKivitz actually had a much better year than people think, but I think McKivitz is probably best if you could, at least if you're going to have, if I would handle right tackle by, okay, if you want McKivitz to be there next year and start initially, but draft somebody that by week 3, 4, 5
who's pushing it,
or potentially even starting over him. You know what I mean? I like Anthony Belton from NC State, who's a gigantic 6'6", 335-pound guy. He's not a first-round pick. He's not even a second-round pick. Matt Miller said, yeah, I like him more in the third round. I like him in the third round too. Get a guy like that. Get a big physical tackle that has, that has huge long arms and can, pass protect and run block. And then you need to find some road graders at guard and at center and start pushing people around up front. Get another back to go with the backs you have, and start pushing people around. Go back to run the ball, play action pass. Get Brock out of the shotgun, more under center. A little bit more play action game. Run the hell out of it, and I think bolster the defense. I mean, the defense badly needs help at defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, free safety, corner.
By the way,
they need help.
CBS mock has James Pierce, edge, 6'5", 243 pounds out of Tennessee to the 49ers.
He's enormously talented.
Number 1 at his position, according to the CBS rankings. So there you go.
He's 240, though. I mean, the one thing about Chris Kasarik is he typically likes his defensive ends in that wide 9 because they are going to set the edge to be, closer to that 260 to 270 pound range. So we'll see.
Well, again,
I don't know if Pierce is the fit, but he might be.
We'll put 20 pounds on you a year into your career. You might not be able to draft him 260, but you can get him to 260 after a year in an NFL weight room. So
but start build. I mean, I really badly wanted to see the Niners sign my buddy Nick Allegretti last year, and he went to the Commanders. Nick Allegretti, if you watch the Commanders game against Detroit, he was absolutely huge. He's manning that left guard spot. They're running the ball up the middle. He has absolutely been an incredible find. So, credit Peters for building this thing up in a short amount of time. But the 49ers have to figure out their offensive and defensive lines. They have to, and this has to be an epic. This can't be one of those drafts where, you got 3 great players. No, that's not going to work. You're going to need 12 good players. 3 great players will not do this. That's what the Niners have done. If you want to go look at what they've done under Lynch, they've messed up a ton of picks, but then they found a great player. They messed up a ton of picks in the first draft, but they got Kittle, right? And they messed up a bunch of picks in 2022, but they got Purdy. And they messed up a bunch of picks, but they landed somebody good late. It's like, that's fine for a year, but what they really need this year is they need 12 to 15 picks. They need volume, and they need to hit on volume.
They do. You will hit whether you are ordering in volume or just targeting lobster rolls. You will be very, very happy down at Sam's Chowder House, the sponsor here of Wake Up. Thanks to everyone at Sam's for always supporting this channel, these channels, and you will be well supported once you pick up that paella, the cioppino, the lobster roll. Unstoppable. Get down to Sam's Chowder House in Half Moon Bay. A great weekend little getaway. You'll be happy that you did. Larry, we got supers. We haven't read one of them yet. Let's get to it.
Fuji Simeon says we need more depth on the D line, as a good defensive coordinator can only do so much. Same for the O line. Both lines need to be retrofitted by picking good in the draft. No question. And
coaches with the right horses look like geniuses. Coaches without the right horses look like buffoons. It's just that simple, and it's just that easy, and that applies to basically every professional sport there is. Everyone's pretty good. Even the bad coach knows a little bit about what the fuck he's doing. Do you have the horses for the race? That's
I
where
mean, who makes a ton in college football? The recruiting coordinator.
Yeah.
The recruiting coordinator makes $1 million a year. Why? Because players are what help you win. And by the way, have you ever seen a college coach after a game when he's announcing an injury? In the pros, it's like, we lost this guy. I may have to move. My kids are going to have to change schools. We're not going to be good. In college, it's like they could lose anybody, and they're like, because they have another guy sitting there.
Right.
And it's just, that's not the same thing. Justin Rodriguez says, as a 49er fan, I was really hoping for a proven name for the defensive coordinator job. I'm open to Brandon Staley. I'm just hoping the 49ers are doing their due diligence. Yeah, I think most people feel like you. Mark at 187 says, what is Drake Jackson's status? It seems he disappeared from the face of the earth. Drake Jackson had a meniscus injury, I believe, in the knee. I saw him in the press box late in the year. And he's one of my favorite guys. We talked for a few minutes, and I just said, Drake, how's it going? And he's like, hey man, I'm trying to rehab and get back. He'll be in camp with the Niners this summer, and it's the biggest summer of his life.
He's way too young to have this many lower limb injuries for a guy who hardly plays. The odds are so stacked against him at this point. You're right. It's the inflection point of his entire career. He will either, this year will either have him remaining in the NFL or out of football completely. That's the fork in the road for him. He remains on a roster or he's done. So I wish him luck, man.
He's got to get stronger. He lacks strength. He's got some good talent, but he lacks strength, and he needs this is it. I mean, this is it. And I think he understands that. Greg R. Jay-Z says it's called Rhode Island Red equals New England and Manhattan.
And Manhattan. Somebody said, it's also known as like Delaware chowder. Because in between Boston and freaking, or the Delaware is underneath. Connecticut chowder.
Connecticut chowder.
Connecticut.
Claudaddy Arcades. Hey, Claudaddy, he's going to be sponsoring our trip to spring training. He says, we will get a comp pick, or will we get a comp pick?
Wait, you're into the arcade industry?
Yes. Claudaddy owns arcades, as he is Claudaddy Arcades.
Does he own Gold Watch in San Francisco? Old Gold Watch? Have you ever been to that place?
No, I don't know. I don't know that he does or doesn't, but I'll ask him next time I talk to him. But Claudaddy Arcades, he runs an arcade business. He's got a number of different arcades, and he's got a couple that are opening up and that we're going to be promoting. And we're thrilled to have Claudaddy as part of the Krug Show, and he will be sponsoring our spring training trip, and we'll take it from there. But thank you, Claudaddy. And the answer is no. You're not going to get a comp pick for Adam Peters. Peters was not a minority hire. He was just hired away.
Adam Peters suffers from the Caucasian. There you
go. You will not be getting a comp pick. Fuji Simeon says, Damon, I'm Japanese American. I'm offended with your Godzilla logo. I demand it changed. LOL, just kidding. I love the logo, and the mug with the logo looks cool.
Thank you.
So there you go.
Thank you very much, Fuji.
Let's not offend. Fuji Simeon, imagine the O-line if the Niners drafted Frazier and Pooney.
Yeah.
Believe me.
If Frazier goes first round, you got no Ricky Pearsall. You got Frazier and Pooney. Oh, my God. I don't know.
Frazier was the best rookie center, and Pooney was the best rookie guard. And if you had gotten Frazier and Pooney,
Larry, they might have been in the playoffs. They might have been a playoff team.
Yeah, they might have been. Fuji Simeon says, Larry Damon, would you consider doing a show from the draft in the future? Maybe just the first round. You mean on the draft or from the draft? I mean, on the draft for sure. I don't know what the plans will be this year for the draft. It will be interesting. Last year, every time the Niners drafted somebody, I did a video, and we had an unbelievable amount of traction on those videos. And I had some people after the draft say to me, man, you brought the draft to life for me because I didn't know much, and they tell you a little bit on the TV, and then you did this like deep dive video, and you put it out right away, and then I was like in the know. So I'll try to do those for sure.
Well, we had an idea last year. We were going to do a remote from the Dubliner, but unfortunately the Wi-Fi didn't support that. So Larry had to drive all the way back home to do that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we were going to do Friday from the Dubliner. I think I'd like to do Friday again. I'd like to do Friday again. Let's try to do it somewhere where we can make sure we got great Wi-Fi, because the great Wi-Fi is kind of essential. But yeah, let's do Friday. I think Friday or even Saturday. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing like a multi-hour thing. Because the Saturday draft goes from 9 a.m. to like 2 p.m. We could do a Saturday morning thing and just get stinking drunk as we put our channels together and do it on the Krug Show / the Plus. I think we'll definitely do something for the draft. It'll either be Friday or Saturday, but we'll definitely do something.
And how about this, Larry? I don't know if you've got any Super Bowl plans, but I haven't even announced this yet. This is the first I've talked about it.
We're going to the Super Bowl?
No. Not going to, without the Niners. I'm not going to New Orleans, but I am going to Mexico. I am going to Mexico next week, though. So we're going to have to talk about whether you need me joining Wake Up from the Beach or not.
Where in Mexico? Which side are you? Pacific
Riviera
Mexico
Maya.
or
Larry? We're going to be on the Gulf of America.
Yes, the new Gulf of America. Yes,
the brand new Gulf of America, new and improved. I'm going to be in the Gulf of America. Riviera Maya has always sat on the Gulf of America, and going to be going to a couple of fish shows on the beach. This is Jilly and I have done this for our 5th time, and we're looking forward to it.
Where though? Is that Cancun?
It's south of Cancun. Yes,
Cancun. Okay,
it's south of Cancun.
And what kind of weather are we talking about this time of year?
It's beautiful. There this time of year.
Just always nice.
Yeah,
just always
it's nice. Larry, it's always lovely on the Gulf of America. Come on.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Which is why it is called the Gulf of America. G-Code Travels Vlog POV. Did the 49ers 2018 draft, was it overlooked? Josh Allen and didn't move up from pick 9 to 7. Lamar at 32 would have cost a second and a third if they wanted a rich man. Trey Lance. I'm not sure what the 2018 draft. I have to let me quickly peruse what that was. What did the Niners even have in the 2018 draft?
Yeah, 2018. Larry, I don't. You know what? I'm sorry. Thank you very much for the super chat. Use the internet yourself. Use the internet yourself. Why does Larry have to Google this during a live show?
Well, let's just take a quick peek. We can take a quick peek. Let's see what the 2018 draft was. Okay, here it is. Baker Mayfield 1, Saquon Barkley 2, Sam Darnold 3, Denzel Ward 4, Bradley Chubb 5, Quentin Nelson 6, Josh Allen went 7. Yeah. If you wanted Josh Allen, man, you could have traded up. The Niners.
Remember how bad Josh
Allen
Niners
went 9. Oh my God. The Niners with the 9th pick went with Mike McGlinchey.
Mm-hmm.
In a midst of a draft top 13 that went Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, Sam Darnold, Denzel Ward, Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson, Josh Allen, Roquan Smith. That was picks 1 through 8. Pick 11 was Minkah Fitzpatrick, great. Pick 12 was Vita Vea, great. Pick 13 was Deron Payne, great. So of the top 13 picks, they were all great except for the 9th and 10th pick. The 9th pick was Mike McGlinchey. The 10th pick was Josh Rosen. I mean, just imagine if the Niners had just taken Vita Vea.
Oh, they would have
had Bay Area. I think has Bay Area ties.
No defensive line problems to this day.
Derwin James and Jair Alexander went late. They could have drafted Frank Ragnow went 20th in that draft. He's become one of the best centers on the best line in football. Yeah, I mean the 49ers. Lamar went 32nd. Wow. Yeah, just you can make yourself crazy if you go back and look at these drafts and be like, which is why the only draft that you can get right is this year's draft. So don't fascinate on what happened in the past. Get it right this time would be my message. All right. Oh wait, no, I think we have another one here. Hold on. A couple more here. Whoa. Fuji Simeon says thoughts on Ichiro not getting 100% of the vote. Crazy.
So
crazy.
I saw a thing today that I totally agree with on Twitter. Somebody says, if you are a decimal dissenter, you should have your vote gone. Like if 1% of the voting public agrees with you, that guy's not a first. You're not even a 1%er. You're the one guy out of all the voters thinking Ichiro's not. He got 99.7% of the vote. Only one dissenter. If you are a decimal point dissenter, less than a decimal point, you should have your vote taken from you because you clearly look at baseball from a lens that nobody else who looks at baseball looks at it through. You douchebag. I don't know who it is.
How about this? How about answer for it? How about you give me your reasoning? Why did you not give him the vote? I mean,
right.
He deserved 100% of the vote. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen. If we didn't have such a fascination with power in our society, he would be celebrated more than he is. But we celebrate power over everything else. We value power over everything else. Speed will never be valued on the same level as power. Defense will never be valued on the same level as power. That's why Babe Ruth is Babe Ruth, and Ty Cobb's Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb was a 10 times better player than Babe Ruth in every aspect of it. I mean, Babe Ruth didn't field, he didn't run, Ty Cobb ran, he stole, he did all kinds of things. But Babe Ruth is Babe Ruth because of the home runs. And Ty Cobb is lesser because he wasn't a home run guy. And Ichiro is the same thing. Ichiro is one of the greatest players that ever walked the earth. I mean, there's just no question about it. This guy's hand-eye coordination was amazing. His arm strength was amazing. What he was as a base runner, as a contact hitter, as a defensive player, as a thrower, his tools were incredible. I can only imagine what he would have done if he played his whole career in the bigs.
I think Andrew Jones should have got in yesterday. That was the one thing that they got wrong yesterday. Andrew Jones should be a Hall of Famer.
See, I have no problem with Andrew Jones not being a Hall of Famer because Andrew Jones sucked for a huge portion of his career. The Andrew Jones, I thought he was one of the lamest baseball players I've ever seen as far as he had great talent, but there was articles where scouts followed him around for a 3-game series and he swung at the first pitch every 13 times in a 3-game series. He had huge talent, but if you go look at his numbers, I was listening to
incredible
Ned
center fielder. Again, if defense means something, like the argument that you were just using for Ichiro, if defense means something, I think Andrew Jones should have been a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I
mean, was he as good a defender as Devon White? No, and Devon White's not in the Hall of Fame, so I don't know about defense. But as far, I mean, Andrew, I'll say this: the best lineup I've ever heard.
He was like 15 years old. He's like the youngest guy who ever hit a home run in the postseason to this day. Still,
yeah, no, he burst onto the scene. But go look at his stats. I mean, he had a lot of years at the end there where he was just super low average. But no, the greatest line of all time, I thought, as far as Andrew Jones, was Bruce Jenkins, who was such a wordsmith, and he wrote in the Chronicle, and he said, Andrew Jones plays center field like he's trying to impress his girlfriend. I mean, it's so true. I mean, the guy really did play, an amazing, he played center field in such an entertaining brand. But okay, so let's take his career, Damon, from 25 on, okay? Age 25. This is his batting averages. 264, 277, 261, 263, 262, 222, 158, 214, 230, 247, final year 197. I'm just saying, yeah, he did some incredible things. He had a 51 home run season. He drove in 128 one year, but he's a career 254 hitter. That's not Hall of Fame in my mind. In my mind, that's not Hall of Fame.
10 gold gloves in center field is kind of hard to turn your nose up at. But okay, look, I'm fine.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. 434 home runs. So that's a ton, 159 stolen bases.
400
He's a great player.
Used to punch it in, man.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great player, and he played from age 19 to age 35. He played for a long time.
17 major league seasons or whatever it is.
Yeah, but he didn't hit over 20 home runs after 2007. And he played 1, 2, 3, 4. He played 5 years after 2007, and he never hit 20 home runs. And he
Well,
never and the highest average he had in that period was 247.
It always ends bad for guys in the steroid era at the end of their career when they're no longer on steroids, right?
I thought this guy was really talented, really good, but not Hall of Fame. That's how I looked at it.
That's the way Cooperstown sees it right now too. By the way, speaking of Hall of Famers, Larry, Rob Cenote, he said that he was given $1 and then deferring the other 99 while he's come through. Like when Ichiro's done playing, the Dodgers got to send him all that money. The deferrals come through. Thank you very much, Rob C. Appreciate you as always.
We need Ohtani in San Francisco. What? I mean, for a 3-game series?
By the way, I forgot to tell you, Larry. Oh, this is I meant to live from the Dubliner. So I was about to say, and then we got sidetracked. Super Bowl halfway club. We got the entire back room just waiting for us. That big screen. There will be drink specials. There will be food specials. It's not Plus Mania. It's Super Plus. The Super Bowl, Super Plus halfway club.
Where?
Super Bowl Sunday halfway club, where we did over
Geneva, on Geneva.
Yep, my buddy's bar, halfway club on Geneva. Super Bowl from 3 to way after the game. We're going to be hanging out. I haven't even announced this on my channel yet. Here's the very first announcement. Larry, I don't know if you and Kevin got plans to watch the Super Bowl anywhere, but come out with us. Everyone would love seeing you and hanging out the afternoon. We could step outside. We could do a halftime video together, although I do want to watch Kendrick Lamar. We could do a post-game video together when we're good and toasty and drunk. But there's an outdoor patio for safety meetings. There will be food specials. There will be drink specials. There will be huge TV. There will be all the sound that you could want and a whole bunch of fun, like-minded people getting together at the Halfway Club Super Bowl Sunday. Come and hang out. Should be a good time.
Sounds good. I am going to do another meet and greet this Sunday for the championship game at Pig and a Pickle as well in Half Moon Bay in Corte Madera. I'll be in Corte Madera for championship Sunday. We'll have more details on that throughout the week, but check me out at Pig and a Pickle on championship Sunday. We're going to be there. We're going to be having some barbecue, a little meet and greet. Anybody who wants to stop by, stop by. Would love to see you there. It should be a great time. Some incredible football. So
it's a meet and greet, MEET, and it's an MEAT and greet. Meet working both ways.
There you go. And then thanks to everybody who has gone to our past meet and greets. But yeah, join me on Sunday. It'll be a little casual get together at Pig and a Pickle in Corte Madera. And I haven't even told Damon that I'm coming yet to Corte Madera, so I'll have to tell him after the show. That's the owner of Pig and a Pickle, Damon.
The other Damon in your life.
Yes, but check us out Sunday at Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue
Larry's got
in
a
all of
second
Northern
Damon.
California.
Larry's got a second Damon. I'm very jealous.
That's right. And that's going to do it for us. Good show today. Lots of good stuff. Hope everybody. Do you have any other thoughts, Damon, you want to share on either the Warriors, the Giants, or anything in sports that you would like to?
Lots of Warriors thoughts to share with Cyrus, who's joining me at the top of the hour. We got a Warriors Weekly coming up at 11 o'clock here to live stream, co-streaming on both of our channels. So a lot of Warriors thoughts upcoming at 11 o'clock. If you like pain, frustration, and feeling stuck in the mud, this is going to be the live stream for you. So stick around. Lots coming up. Very frustrating year is unfolding right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, the Warriors. I don't know what to say about the Warriors. It's brutal. It's a brutal watch. They don't know what they want to do. They're trying to serve multiple masters. They know they don't want to pay Kuminga, but they know they don't want to trade Kuminga. They know they want to win with Steph, but they know they can't win with Steph. They don't want to get rid of Steph because he means so much to their business, but they can't win with him. They don't want to insult him. Seriously.
It's an awful lot to deal with. I mean, when you look at what's going on with the Warriors, it's very frustrating. It's a frustrating year, as you saw already, for the 49ers. Don't tell me about the Monday night score. I'm taping it, Tommy. I don't want to hear about it. But frustrating season for the 49ers. Very frustrating season. Even though Macklin Celebrini's now with the Sharks. Go Sharks. They're still blowing late multiple goal leads in almost historic fashion. So the Sharks are driving me nuts. The Giants, it's very nice that Larry's going down to Scottsdale. He's got an arcade, paying for him to go to Scottsdale. This is good. But don't expect the Giants to come in and save your summer, because these guys haven't put together an infield. And holy shit, it's a frustrating time to be a Bay Area sports fan. Angels fly because they take themselves lightly.
Yeah, I didn't even want Liam Cohen. I'm kind of glad that he didn't want to work under me. I didn't want him working under me. You know what I'm saying? I told Shad Khan, hey, Shad, it's me and you, baby. We don't need this guy Cohen. And if I can somehow fuck up the Niners by taking away Saleh, you know what? I hope the Niners blow an ACL.